What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Keeping It Short. With me is my good buddy Andrew Holmes. We usually bring him on to talk basketball. I think that's the only time we've had you on. But today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. A few weeks. Well, first of all, Andrew, how's it going? I should ask that.
Well, it's fine. How about yourself, Shane?
Going pretty good. I just moved into my place here in Morgantown. Looking for a job, and then grad school starts in August.
It's on.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
But we have him on today doing something a little different. A few weeks ago, we did this with my buddy Chaz, who is actually Andrew's best friend, about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But today,
cheers!
but today we'll be doing something different. Instead, it'll be the Star Wars universe, and my boy Andrew here is a huge Star Wars fan. I'm sure you got every movie on DVD.
And I even have them on VHS.
Even have them on VHS. But so let's go ahead and get started with the recent Star Wars movie that just came out, Solo. What did you think of it?
I thought it was everything I expected it to be. It didn't go in, I didn't come out disappointed or anything like that. I thought it was, a fun movie. I mean, it wasn't no world beater, but I liked it. I enjoyed it.
See, I was kind of disappointed. It looked a lot better in the trailer, I thought, than what I actually saw. That's not to say I didn't like it. I did like the movie. It just didn't really, grasp my,
Yeah.
Full likability. If I had to rate it out of 10, I'd say like a solid 6.5. I mean, it was a fine movie. It wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah. I think it was, like I said, I went into it not expecting a whole lot because, it's a Star Wars fatigue type thing. If they're going to if they're going to keep popping out movies left and right, you're going to have to experience. There's going to be one or two that aren't as good as the other ones. Like Star Wars is a great franchise, but that doesn't mean every movie's amazing.
That's true. And this one is ranking toward the bottom, actually, in terms of reviews. I think it's behind every other movie in the Star Wars universe, but right ahead of Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, which are two of the worst movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't get that. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean,
I think a lot of it, what the bad reviews really has to do with Star Wars fatigue.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I don't know if these movie critics or anything are still upset about Last Jedi because that got a lot of negative.
I love The Last Jedi.
I liked it. I just think that a lot of the bad reviews does have to do with Star Wars fatigue. I think that's the biggest thing right there. I mean, I think if The Last Jedi came out, if Solo didn't come out until at the end of the year during the holiday season, I think it would have got way more better reviews. I think if there was a little bit more than just a few months time frame from one Star Wars movie to the next, that it would have gotten better reviews because you kind of can see some of that with the Marvel universe, but they are meant to pop out all these movies to form their cinematic universe with Infinity War. But
with Marvel, they're at least using like comic books. They're at least using some sort. It's an adaptation. Star Wars isn't.
No, exactly. And I just think that a lot of it has to do with this is only the second like Origins type movie, second non-trilogy.
And that's the other thing is that Rogue One I thought was fantastic. That really surprised me. I had low expectations for Rogue One.
I had high expectations with Rogue One, and I was satisfied. I didn't have a whole lot of high expectations with Han Solo because I thought it like Rogue One, it's an origin story. It's going to tell a lot of stuff that I went into the movie excited and thrilled to go see it and learn about the Han Solo backstory and Lando's story. But I also went not expecting to be blown away with just amazing acting. It was an action-packed movie, and it delivered.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I think what these people need to realize, Like a lot of people complain about Rogue One, like they don't have lightsaber duels. I'm like, okay, but there's more to the Star Wars universe than just lightsabers and Sith and Jedi. Like that's what I've always loved about Star Wars. And some of the best stuff I like about it is the expanded universe. You learn about all these different characters who aren't just Jedi's and Sith. You know, they have backstories. They're badasses. They have all these things they can do. And I like these movies that are coming out telling these stories.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I feel like Solo had a pretty good backstory. He, from a nobody cares planet, doesn't even have a last name, and then when the guy asks him when he leaves, what's your last name, he just says Solo because he's by himself. So I kind of like that origin, and I even love how he and Chewie met. How do you think about that?
I think that was cool. A long time ago, which like me and you've already discussed this. Like growing up, I've read all those other extra books that the middle school had in the libraries, and then the civil library had. I'd go and rent those books out and read them. I can't remember if that was actually Chewie's origin story of how he met Han, but I do like it. I think Disney did a good job of combining the two. It was just I wasn't necessarily expecting Chewie to be at the bottom of that of the pit.
I did. I knew it was going to be Chewie.
But they did a good job of making him meet fast and showing how it happens.
That is true. At least they did that. They didn't have him waiting for Chewbacca. They like they did with Lando. You kind of waited all the entire movie, and then Lando shows up. But he has a different relationship with Chewbacca than he does Lando. Lando's not there all the time.
Yeah.
But what did you think? I actually thought the actor Alden Ehrenreich, I think is how you pronounced it, was a pretty good Han Solo.
I mean, I think he played the part. He was a little cocky. He was adventurous. He played the Han Solo part right, and I think
for the most part he got it down. Obviously, he's not Harrison Ford. He wasn't as charming. But even with Harrison Ford's Han Solo, he's a scumbag, but he was kind of charming.
But he was also like Harrison in the storyline. Harrison Ford's Han Solo is a little bit older. This is a young Han Solo, and we're just learning about because you hear all these Han Solo stories in episode 4, 5, and 6 in Star Wars. You always hear about his past in every movie. And
the Kessel Run. We finally got to see the Kessel Run.
All that, but this is the movie that allowed that to show what he went through, to show young Han Solo doing stupid stuff and writing checks he can't cash.
Like Maverick. Just so the listeners know, Top Gun is one of Andrew's favorite movies, or is Andrew's favorite movie.
Well, next to Star Wars.
But one thing I thought was hilarious with this movie was the Kessel Run. We've heard this entire time, the Kessel Run. He did it in 12 seconds, and it's really more. I didn't see it. Truth be told, I was in the bathroom, but I heard it. It was more like 13 seconds, but he rounded down.
Yeah, exactly. But that's always alluded to as like, I ran Kessel Run in 12 parsecs or whatever. Yeah. And you finally get to see that. And that was like the biggest thing I was expecting in the whole movie. Is like it's going to show the Kessel Run, and it's going to show him with the Millennium Falcon.
And he rounded down. That's Han Solo right there.
Yep, that's Han Solo. That is the epitome of Han Solo.
But one of the surprises of this movie is probably, not probably, it has to be Darth Maul coming back from the dead.
Yep. I've always, as someone who's indulged in the expanded universe, I've always known he was still alive in EU.
See, I never knew that, and I did see a spoiler going in, so I knew Darth Maul was back. I didn't believe it at first. I'm like, no chance. And then he actually did show up.
Darth Maul and Boba Fett. Those are the two villains of the Star Wars universe that ever since I was young and dug into the lore have always been, on screen they die, but they're never technically dead. Like everyone always in Boba Fett's another one. Like in episode 6, he falls into the Sarlacc pit, never to be seen again, or so you assume. But in the EU, he fights his way out of it, and he, does Boba Fett shit. Same thing with Darth Maul. In the EU, he comes back. He builds robotic legs. He becomes his own guy, like a bounty hunter Sith. No association with the Emperor. He's doing his own thing, and I think that's a cool backstory. And I think it was cool to see his appearance. Mm-hmm. I think all of this builds up to, the next 2 movies, and then all of that will actually intertwine with Rogue One, I think.
And we'll get into that a little bit later. I I want to stick with Solo for the time being. Yeah, but yeah, he just came out of nowhere. We always heard I guess the villain of this movie was Paul Bettany. I don't even remember his name. What was his name in this movie?
Or if, like, start with a D. Like I said,
Yeah,
he
you're
was
right.
so his character made such a quick and
Yep.
appearance, and he was gone like that. In Rogue One, you got Krennic.
Yeah, and that's my one criticism of this was there was no real villain that you hated.
And what he does was like his presence is made throughout the thing. With Rogue One, this guy he makes a few appearances, does the typical badass thing, kills a guy, and, shows that he's the bad guy, and I just think that sorry, someone's trying to call me. I just think that he could have been established a little bit better, but at the same time, this is a Solo origin story, so you get him out of the way, move on to the bigger person in the back, which is Darth Maul. So I'm interested to see what will happen with that.
Yeah, they technically work for him, I guess. And spoiler alert, he's now dead, and my girl Emilia Clarke looks like is taking his place. Not quite the character. I shouldn't say that. I honestly thought when she was cast, she was going to be kind of like a bad guy. But we kind of knew she would have a fling with Han Solo. She'd be a love interest, but I got an impression she was going to be a bad guy.
Yeah, and lo and behold, she's doing Darth Maul's dirty work.
Yep. Yeah, and the movie goes on. She starts off, she's a very sweet girl, good guy, and then all of a sudden she comes back, and Woody Harrelson's saying you can't trust her. And I'm like, okay. And then sure enough, you can't.
And that's the thing. But the coolest, I will say, the coolest thing about that movie, in my personal opinion, that people can say what they want about Woody Harrelson's acting. I think he played the part right. But at the end, when Han Solo shoots him, and Han Solo says, don't trust, he tells Han Solo, don't trust anybody. He even smiles, and he's like glad Han Solo shot him, because he was like, when he says, I was going to shoot you, like I thoroughly, you think that, like he was going to shoot.
When I saw that, I got flashbacks of him shooting the bounty hunter and
Rito right there.
Yeah.
Who shot?
When I saw that, yeah, that's just what I was thinking of. But yeah, I really liked the guy who was Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich. I thought he had Harrison Ford's mannerisms down, the way he held the gun. He just looked like him. With the hair. But yeah. So we kind of touched on it. Let's go ahead. We both like the movie. Let's go ahead and talk about the future, because it's setting up, at least I think, for Han Solo to get 2 more movies, or to potentially come back in like the upcoming Boba Fett movie, or the presumed Obi-Wan movie. But I think this version of Han Solo is coming back at some point before the events of A New Hope. What do you think?
Well, I do know not too long ago, they basically insinuated that Han Solo is going to be a trilogy.
Yeah,
but they didn't.
That's the impression I got.
Well, and now that they've already confirmed basically a Boba Fett or an they've confirmed one of the two, an Obi-Wan or Boba Fett.
They've confirmed for sure Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan is in the works.
I think what they're going to do is tie all 3 of those in, and that's going to be the trilogy that they're talking about, because, not to be some, fan theory stuff, but in episode 4, Han Solo, Obi-Wan, and Boba Fett, they all start out in Tatooine. All 3 of them.
Yep. You
don't see Han Solo until the Mos Eisley Cantina. You don't see Boba Fett until Han Solo's talking to Jabba and them, and then Obi-Wan's already on there.
He is in Tatooine.
So I think they're going to tie all of these into a trilogy, and then that will start New Hope.
Especially I think Obi-Wan, because now that Darth Maul is back, who was the last person we thought killed Darth Maul? It was Obi-Wan.
Yep. And in Star Wars Rebels, and I haven't actually watched any of that stuff, but I read it and read about it. He actually, and it is technically canon according to Disney, Darth Maul finds and hunts down Obi-Wan and meets him on Tatooine, only to finally be killed by Obi-Wan.
That would be awesome if he hunts him down. And of course, Emilia Clarke's going to be somehow involved in this. Maybe I think they're all going to eventually just go after Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And I think, That
Darth
might even
Maul's
tie
gonna
into
hunt him
Boba
down.
Fett
I
because he's
think Boba
best.
Fett might hunt him down. Who knows? He's a bounty hunter. They might get wind that a Jedi's still alive.
And Jabba might put a price on his head. I think it'll be very interesting to see what Star Wars does with this, because this is a great opportunity for them to tie all three of the movies in together for one trilogy, because it's all like they allude to Tatooine multiple times towards the end.
Woody Harrelson told Han Solo to go there after they were done. So yeah, I think
Tatooine, by far the most famous planet in the Star Wars universe, because it's where the majority of the episode 1 or episode 4 is. So the majority of episode 1's at, and it shows bits and pieces of it throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We're running on 17 minutes here. Feel like we could talk more about it. What's that?
I could go all day. That's how big of a nerd I am when it comes to this stuff.
We've kind of already touched on it, but you got any theories? You want to throw around there?
I think, like you said, Emilia Clarke. I think she's bad. Obviously, she's shown she's a baddie. I don't know. I think that might be the last time we see Lando. Actually,
I would agree with that, because
I think that
Han Solo's already got the Millennium Falcon back. So got the Millennium Falcon from him.
And when in episode 5, when he reunites with Lando, they allude to the fact the last time they met, he lost the Falcon to a card game. So I think that's the last time we see childish Gambino's Lando, at least for the foreseeable future.
Did you not like Donald Glover as Lando?
I liked him.
I thought you were saying you didn't like him. I loved him as Lando. I thought he was a great Lando.
I thought he was too. I thought he did the best acting out of all of the main characters. But I just think that there's no really reason to bring him out again until, next time we see Lando will probably be Billy D. Williams in the next Star Wars episode. Is
he joining the 9th Star Wars movie?
I'm pretty sure he's been confirmed. They keep alluding to it, so I think
Since Carrie Fisher's dead, I would like to bring him back. I would like to bring him back anyway.
Because I think, with her dying, they've already filmed a bunch of episode 9 stuff with her, though, and they're going to put her in there. She'll probably sacrifice herself in some ship, whatever. You know how it is. They'll find some way to make her exit, in a heroic way.
Are you sure? I thought they said the 8th one was her last movie in general.
They said that. Well, I thought when she died, they said they had some stuff for episode 9. So I guess, who knows? Ever since they made her a hologram and they made Peter Cushing's character a hologram on Rogue One, who knows?
I think that's what's going to happen with this Han Solo thing, because I don't think we're going to go straight from Alden Ehrenreich to Harrison Ford. It might be like the last thing we see is like a CGI Harrison Ford on Tatooine.
Same thing with Obi-Wan Kenobi, because the guy that played him in the original, he died, in the 80s. What's his name? I know his name, I just can't think of it. That's terrible.
What was his name? Alec Guinness?
Alec Guinness, yeah. Alec Guinness, that's right.
Yeah, but what was I going to say? Ewan McGregor is a big enough actor. They can age him up a little bit to where he looks more like Alec Guinness.
And he's already confirmed he really, really, really wants to do something.
I love Ewan McGregor.
Obi-Wan was always my favorite character, him and Boba Fett. Obi-Wan was my favorite hero.
That's another thing too. Boba Fett, I feel like, is the most overrated character in Star Wars. I had never seen the original trilogy like all the way through until a couple of years ago, and so I thought he had a bigger role. He's barely in it.
Yeah, Boba Fett's always been, and every series has it. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, all of these, they always have that character that his presence is so awesome because people like him, even though if he doesn't do much, he's always like, Boba Fett's always been a certified badass because he doesn't say much. He's a bounty hunter. He's got cool weapons and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's always, why is he in the suit? Why does he have the mask on? Why doesn't he talk so much?
But then doing the Boba Fett, like reading up on his lore and his legend, it's pretty sweet. And then he became, we watched Mace Windu cut his dad's head off in episode 2, and then like he picks up the helmet. That's like
I totally forgot. That's Boba Fett.
Yeah,
that little kid. So yeah, we already have some sort of familiarity with him. It might be with this new movie what happened after that.
Yeah, and if you read I've read some stuff like some books that involved Boba Fett when I was younger, and he basically he turns into a bounty hunter. His dad was, but his dad really wasn't as dark and deep of a bounty hunter. His dad was more of like a professional bounty hunter. Boba Fett is kind of like I'll do my own thing. Like, it's always funny because like he's the one that Darth Vader looks at whenever Darth Vader's like, hunt down the Millennium Falcon. He's like, hey, no disintegrations, because like Boba Fett's liable to just set somebody on fire and disintegrate them, because that's the way he does things. Boba Fett's been a bounty hunter that he don't really care about dead or alive. He just wants his pay.
Yeah. And I really am looking forward to that. They got the writer from the Logan movie. I never saw it, but it got great reviews. That's going to be a very entertaining movie. Are there any actors you would like to see as Boba Fett?
Well,
he's British, right?
He doesn't talk much.
Yeah.
But I think, Tom Hardy always sounds
I was just
good
about to say, Tom Hardy would be my go-to.
But he seems like the easy one to go to, but I can't think of another actor that has a demeaning presence under a mask that could come on.
I mean, Tom Hardy's already done that with Bane, and he's just that actor where he can say so much without saying a line at all. Yeah, very good facial recognition, expressions. I would really like him as Boba Fett.
Me too.
All right. It's 23 minutes. We're still not anywhere close to what we did for the Marvel movie. Anything else you want to keep talking about?
Whatever your call is, bub.
Why don't we just do this new trilogy? This
new
7,
trilogy.
8, 9.
I love The Force Awakens. Wasn't really a fan of The Last Jedi.
What do you think about this new one?
The next one, hopefully it blows our socks off, but I don't know, man. They killed off Snoke, and so I had a lot of theories about him. I think Rey might turn to the dark side for a split second and then go back to the light side. Who knows?
There's no one left on the light side anymore that would be able to step up.
Yes, Princess Leia, if she can, plead with her at the last minute. Like, I could see, her sacrificing herself to like save Rey.
See, I feel like she is going to be killed off screen in between 8 and 9.
I think she'll probably like crash her capital ship into like a First Order whatever, like like they did in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I thought she was going to die in The Last Jedi. That's what they made it seem, but I just thought they would since she was dead.
I think between her, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill, I did not think that Carrie Fisher's character would be the last technically surviving one still in the series.
That's what they said their plan was. The original trio, like the 7th one was going to be devoted to Han Solo, the 8th was going to be devoted to Luke Skywalker, and then the 9th was going to be Leia. So now she's gone.
And I'm cool with that. Like, anyone who's upset with them killing these characters off, like, Star Wars, now that Disney bought them out, it's a moneymaker. And they're trying to establish a new generation of characters for the younger generation. Because technically, my mom's generation is who, like, grew up on Star Wars, and the generation before me, like, I grew up on Star Wars, but I was, like, I wasn't born until, like, 10 years after Return of the Jedi. So, like, 83.
Yeah, I was born 9 years later.
All those movies were already out. My mom, her first date she went on to was A New Hope when it first was in theaters. So, like, that's how old my parents are. But that's how old that's how old Star Wars is. So now I don't blame Disney for trying. Like, people's mad about Finn and Rey and all that stuff, and I'm like, it's the new generation of characters. You have to accept it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. This is a new story. It's not 4, 5, and 6.
Like, yeah, sure. I don't like seeing Han Solo get stabbed and fall off the thing. I didn't like seeing Luke Skywalker sacrifice himself like that. But it happens. Like, there's still the badass heroes that we know in all the other movies. They still defeated the Empire and all that stuff. So it's like,
Speaking of which, I thought that was so awesome. Luke Skywalker, when he shows up at the end of The Last Jedi, and he's a projection, and he, completely fools Kylo Ren, and then his line is, "See you around, kid." I was like, oh my god, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I did like that. kind of tribute to Han Solo. That's kind of, we're just running out of stuff to talk about. We're at 26 minutes. Yeah, so I'm glad we got to do this. I wanted to do this since I did the Marvel thing with Chad. I was like, you know what, why don't we do a Star Wars thing with Andrew?
Yeah, well, I appreciate it because I love talking Star Wars.
Obviously. And since Solo came out, I thought it would be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think Solo it's one of those movies that in the next 5 to 6 years, we'll see how many Star Wars movies come out, but we might look back at it and be like, it was pretty cool. But that's what people need to expect with these origin stories. Like, they're supposed to be action-packed. They're telling the stories that a fan, when you grow up playing with the action figures and the toys and you play the video games and you read the books, it's all the stuff that you always wanted to, like we all, had the action figures and had our own little battles. This is the type of stuff that, like, you finally get to see on screen. Like, the coolest thing, Darth Vader cutting up some rebels. You always wanted to see that, and you don't see it in the original movies.
We did that with Vader. The prequel trilogy was about how Vader essentially came to be.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the whole Star Wars universe, particularly episodes 1 through 6. So before 2012, when Disney bought out Star Wars, the whole Star Wars series was completely focused around Anakin Skywalker, mainly the Skywalker family. Like, that's what the whole movies is about. The prequels is Anakin going from Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, and then the original trilogy is Luke Skywalker finding himself and finding his sister and defeating the Empire, only to find out that that's his dad, and then he finally brings him back to the light side. So it's like, it's the whole series, I guess, is focused on the Skywalker family. So this is why I like seeing these side stories about all these other characters that people come to know and love, like Han Solo, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't that disappointed with Solo. It just wasn't as good as I thought it would be. Especially after the success of Rogue One.
And I understand that. But I think for all we know, it could end up being the worst out of all of the side stories, but we'll see.
I don't know. I just feel like and I understand your thing about it wasn't a villain story, it was a Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
But I just felt like they really should have established a villain.
Well, and playing the old video games and reading, there's always these other villains that pop up that seem pretty badass, and I mean, they end up dying or being defeated, but like, their presence is like intimidating. Like, it's like, that dude's pretty bad. Like, Vader, that's one thing I resent about Kylo Ren, because he doesn't come off as intimidating. Yeah. Vader brought fear into the audience's eyes. If an officer was incompetent, he'd just choke him to death like that. And it's like, damn, Darth Vader can, like, choke people with just his mind and all that. And then, the guys were like that. The crook.
That was within what, the first 20 minutes of the original trilogy?
Scene? Like that. Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back. The coolest thing about it, they come out of Lightspeed and they try to surprise the rebels, and the rebels catch them, so they have time to evacuate. Vader doesn't like that. What does he do? Chokes his officer to death, and then he's like, "You're in command now." So naturally, when one officer sees his colleague get choked to death, and it's like, "You're in command," he's nervous to And if you really read up on the expanding universe, like, the Imperial officer persona is like super competitive, and there's a whole lot of resentment, and there's a whole lot of like backstabbing and power hungry officers that will do whatever they can to get to the top because they want to be Vader's right hand man. So it's interesting when you read up on a lot of that stuff. It's like any other type of military in the world or anything like that. It's just a power hunger, and I think that's what's cool about the future of Star Wars is they'll show more and more of these characters in more movies, and we'll learn about these characters that if you go back and read the books, you can still learn about some of them. So I'm interested. I hope Disney doesn't just completely, because that is one thing I don't like about Disney. If they want to do their own thing, that's fine, but at least go back and use some of the old material, get approval from writers, developers of games, whatever. Use that type of information. Don't just make up your own shit and then just be like, oh, why is there backlash from the fans? Because a lot of people didn't go see Solo because they boycotted because they were not a fan of how The Last Jedi was. That's
I don't
that.
get that.
That's
I thought the Last Jedi was great.
I liked it. I mean, it wasn't my favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought it was okay. There was things about it I didn't like.
I will give you that. When I was there, like I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best one. And then I bought it on DVD and watched it a few weeks ago. I was like, you know what, this wasn't as good as I thought it was, but it was still solid. I thought.
Yeah, I thought the Force Awakens was pretty sweet, but I will say, and
I didn't like the Force Awakens. I just thought that was a remake of.
Oh, it was. It was a remake of The New Hope, and to be fair, Last Jedi kind of was a remake of The Empire Strikes Back.
I did see a lot of Empire work into The Last Jedi.
Spend the whole movie chasing that ship. That's kind of how Empire Strikes Back was. They just reversed it a little bit. They start off with the assault on Hoth. Completely resembled the assault on the planet of the mining planet that they do. They just wait to do it at the end.
I thought that was snow. I'm like, really? We're doing another snow planet?
Yeah. and they spend the whole movie chasing that ship, and that's like exactly how Empire Strikes Back was. The whole middle of the movie was Darth Vader chasing the Millennium Falcon all through asteroids.
In all seriousness, The Last Jedi, I mean, outside of like the Rey, Luke, and Kylo plotline, it was abysmal.
Yeah, I did not like mainly the plot line, but also the way they portrayed Luke Skywalker, which I get what you're saying. You know, he starts the Jedi Academy and Kylo Ren kills everybody and burns it down, turns evil. Yeah, that would kind of, if I was a Jedi Master, that would wreck me too. But like, it's just the way he comes off is so soft. It's like not the Luke Skywalker that you're used to.
Well, I mean, honestly, did we honestly think when she went to him at the end of The Force Awakens that he was just going to be like, yeah, let's do this?
No, I knew there was going to be just the way Yoda was. And that's another thing. It's just like Empire Strikes Back. Yoda resentful to train Luke because he's too old, but that's because Yoda knows who he is and who he's the offspring of, and Yoda doesn't want him to suffer the same fate. So I get that, but I guess I don't know. Maybe it's a type because like I left for The Force Awakens. I was like, I love that movie, but it's not better than the original trilogy.
No.
Like I immediately left the movie theater happy and excited and satisfied, but at the same time I was like, it'll never beat the original trilogy, but I don't think anything will, because to this day I will always think The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi are the two best. Yes. I love A New Hope, but
I would put it 4, or no, I'd probably go 5, 4, then 6.
Yeah, and I think from a storytelling standpoint, action, suspense, love, whatever you want to call it, I still think The Empire Strikes Back is one of the best written cinematic pieces in the history of movies, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not. It's very dark, but when you're a kid, you don't see that because you're like, it's Star Wars, lasers, lightsabers, ships. But then when you like get older and you understand the story, you realize how dark it is, and it's like it's a pretty deep story.
Yeah.
And then Return of the Jedi was fun, but it wasn't as deep and dark as
it was. I mean, it was what you expected. You just with these movies, you kind of know what's going to happen. You know that the Empire is going to be defeated. You know the First Order is going to be defeated in this new one. So that is the one thing about Star Wars. It's just very predictable. But most movies are like that.
One of those. It's like Lord of the Rings and all these other. It's a hero type movie. Yeah. It's a there's an antagonist, protagonist, and you put them together. What's going to happen. Evil will always lose to the good. It's because it's one of those type things. Because even though it's not necessarily for little kids, it's aimed at little kids. Like not to like change subjects, but like all those people that died in Infinity War, they're not dead. They're gonna come back. Yeah. Like it's not. Spider-Man's got upcoming movies. Okay?
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing that, and I was like, "How can you kill off Spider-Man? He's got another movie gonna come out." Yeah.
So like
same with Black Panther. I was like, he's made $1 billion in his first movie.
Exactly. So it's like Marvel will find a way to bring those characters back because it's a evil loses the good series. Superhero movie.
How about this? I thought Han Solo was gonna come back from the dead. Do you think he's coming back? Yeah, I think he's gone too.
I think he's gone. There's no way he survived that.
Now, does Mark Hamill come back as a Force
ghost? Mark Hamill can come back, and Princess Leia will too. I think because she is technically she is a Force bender. She has that in her blood.
Well,
I think
Carrie Fisher can't.
Speaking of that, that's what I'm interested the most about this Obi-Wan film, because I think Qui-Gon Jinn will make an appearance, so therefore hopefully Liam Neeson.
I just realized, what if they made a Qui-Gon Jinn film? I would love to see more of Qui-Gon Jinn. That would be sweet.
I do think if and when they make an Obi-Wan movie, hopefully it's Liam Neeson, but Qui-Gon Jinn will appear as a mentor, force bender type thing, a hologram, like to Obi-Wan. Like I do think that will happen.
I would like to see that. I would like to see. We already kind of saw that Kenobi was familiar with. I guess he's the king of Alderaan. Is that right? Alderaan, wherever she's from. Princess Leia's from.
Well, Obi-Wan, Alderaan's where Leia's from.
Right,
yes.
And then her adopted father, Kenobi's kind of familiar with him in Episode 3. But I would like to see if he becomes if he's granted, like asylum and stays with them, and that's how she gets to know Obi-Wan a little bit more, that kind of thing.
Because I do know at the end of Episode 3, they've part their ways. Obi-Wan takes off to Tatooine and drops Luke off to his aunt and uncle.
That's true. He is there. I forgot about that.
And then, Yoda goes into. He says, "Take me to exile." So Yoda exiles himself to Dagobah, and then what's his face goes back to Alderaan with Princess Leia. So
yeah, and I would like to see that. I would like to see if he's keeping an eye on Luke on Tatooine, but what if he's like, well, let's see how the other one's doing. Goes over there, gives a little bit more of a backstory into how Leia knows Obi-Wan. Maybe it's just not, her adopted father saying, no, contact him if you need help. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm bringing up.
Or two, pulls that out, on Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
That is the one thing I think that this new trilogy has done, is it's done an excellent job of blending the two franchise, the original trilogy and the new characters together.
Yep.
All right. You got anything else to say? I thought you were about to say something.
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
That ate up a lot of time. Good. That'll do it for us. I think Star Wars is a great franchise. It's done for this year. I don't think the next movie is until next December, Episode 9, correct?
Yep, something like that.
And then I believe it's the Boba Fett movie. And then what's after that? Is it this new trilogy? Because there's 2 new trilogies on the way.
Well, I'm interested to see what Disney will do, because there's a lot of expanded universe that they can. Because if you really read up, this is the last thing I'll say. In some of the books, it makes the Emperor out to be not as terrible of a person as you think, because he's actually building a galaxy and an army to fight off against some crazy, super powerful force in another galaxy. It's not technically a part of the Star Wars universe. And that's alluded to in books, that the Emperor's the Emperor's not as evil as you think, and he's as of now, he's an evil being, but I don't know if the movies will ever get to that. But it's something that's alluded to in some of the old books, like preparation of an invasion by another species of
that would be
you know what I mean?
Yeah. But like I said, this new trilogy will be done next year, and then I think after that, the director of Episode 8, Rian Johnson, has his own trilogy coming up that's not a Skywalker Star Wars trilogy.
I'm interested to see what they will go moving forward. And then they've talked about Netflix series set in the Star Wars underworld, and I would love to see that. I think that would be awesome. But we'll see.
And then there's another one that's supposed to be, I think, done by the Game of Thrones showrunners. They have their own, Star Wars non-Skywalker trilogy. I'm assuming after 9, the Skywalker movies are going to be done. It doesn't make sense. I think 9, you can make an argument for obviously 7, 8, 9. After 9, though, does it make sense to do a 10, 11, 12? I don't think so.
No.
I agree. All right. So, yeah. Episode 9 next year, Boba Fett. Likely this new trilogy with Rian Johnson. I know I think he was slated to direct Episodes 8 and 9, and then he dropped out of 9. I guess probably to do this new one and get it done by 2020. And then I think J.J. Abrams is who did Episode 7 is now the director of Episode 9 again.
No.
So, yeah. I'd say that new Rian Johnson trilogy is in 2020. And hopefully, I'm trying to cross my fingers here. Kenobi movie in 2021.
That'd be nice. That'd be
That would
nice.
I'd love to see Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, Force Ghost, all that. And like you said, all tied up on Tatooine. That would be fun.
I think that, my theory at least.
Yeah, that would be fun. Andrew, thank you for coming on and talking about Star Wars, my man.
As always.
Yep. We'll be in touch. I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to have you on sometime before the NBA draft. I know you really get into that.
Mavs fan for life, baby.
And they have the
number. I'm turning in my fan card.
They have the number 4 pick, number 5 pick, 5.
Okay, a top 3 pick.
Yeah. We'll bring you on. You can vent about that.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. Later.
Later.